Good design. This is actually my definition combined with a couple things. And this is the way, actually, for all the job interviews I've been on, when somebody says, what is design to you? And I say, I take information, I organize it creatively so that somebody understands it. And that's, to me, that's what good design is. Also good marketing. So creatively communicates a message, a branded messages to a targeted, specifically your target audience, and motivates them to do something. So I'm going to go through the process of how the creative process should work when you're coming up with the design. Research. It's getting your grocery list. Organize and gather resources. You're going shopping. Brainstorm, sketch / plan. That's your prepping. General layout. You're going to prepare the recipe. Produce and deliver. You're going to cook and present it. During every step of the process, you're going to review and get feedback. It's important because that way you make sure you're staying on scope with the project. Let's start with research. You're going to define your scope and your goal, or your goal and your scope. Basically, you're going to, what are you doing, why are you doing it, and how you want to do it. You want to figure out who your target audience is. I want to say if you're selling cars and you're selling, little hot rods, you're probably not going to want to sell it to somebody that buys big trucks. You're going to want to think colors. You want to think imagery. You're going to select a message vehicle. And when I say that, I mean no matter if it's print, web, billboards, if you're going to a trade show, outreach campaign, you're going to want to think about that. Gather samples. Google is huge. I find it very helpful. That's my tip down here. It's a great resource for ideas. I look at Google Images. I'll click on the links, see what comes up, the top 10, to get ideas, look at the competition. You don't want to look exactly like them, but if they're your competition and they're doing well, you don't want to be that far away from them either. Understand the brand and the client. For me, that's I need to understand my client, my brand, or my client's brand, but also for you, if it's just you individually, then understand your brand. Understand how your logos are supposed to look. Understand if they're stretched. A lot of people like to put logos in Word, and sometimes they get manipulated and they stretch across the page and they look kind of funny. Don't distort your brand. Use the colors. Talk with your marketing people if you're not a marketing person, or your graphics people. Organize and gather resources. This is where you're going shopping. You want to go get your photos. Stock imagery, using photographers. Depending on how you're using them, you're going to want to think, do I need them high res? Do I need them low res? Do I need them digitally? Can I scan them if I'm using a photographer and they're using film? Colors. As I mentioned, your brand. Is the colors reflecting the brand that you have or that you're going to use? Is it reflecting the research that you acquired? If you found out that your target audience is male, do you want to use pink? File specifications. This would be for if you're doing trade show booths, advertising, or ads for a news publication, web. It could be anything, actually, anything that you're creating. You want to make sure that you know what specifications that you're going to need for that. Text. Content's important up front. When you're laying something out or thinking, designing the concept, is because you want to know how much you have generically, if it's going to be a page, 2-page, if you're creating a brochure. And once again, the ad, if it's a 5x7 ad, you're not going to want 3-word side pages document to put into that ad. Illustrations, same thing as photos. If you're using illustrations, we have builders here that we do projects for, brochures, inserts, and they have renderings or floor plans. We do a lot of floor plans here, recreating them. Technology. You want to think about the technology that you're going to use and where this is going to be presented on. Is it going to be print? Is it going to be on web? Is it going to be on a phone? Brainstorm, plan, and sketch. I think this is important, not only to do for yourself, but also if you can do it with other people. Expand your ideas. For you to sit down and think, okay, you've done your research, you started gathering your materials, you're kind of starting developing ideas in your head. So this is where you go and you sit down and you start to, conceptualize and think, okay, what am I going to do with these? Like, I know who my target audience is. I know what colors they like. I know what my brand is. So now, how am I going to come up with this great thing that's going to make people buy my products and services? One of the important things that was taught in school, and why you brainstorm and specifically plan and sketch, is it saves time. The designers that that are under me, I tell them all the time to go sit down, sketch it out, develop your idea. Because once you go to the computer, that's where you save the time, because you know what you're going to do. You have this plan, you have a floor plan, kind of like a architect or a builder. That's what they use their floor plans for. That's what you use a recipe for. And then clarifies your expectations. If you're sketching out what you have brainstormed and the ideas and things that you came up with, and you have a place for all those items that you gathered during your research and gathering phase, then this clarifies the expectations and you're meeting that goal that you set earlier. And provides a map for desired medium. And this is actually really important for a web tree architecture. This will help with the design and where everything goes and how each page links to one another, and what elements are important for each page. Okay, now you're going to bake that design. Put it in the oven. And it's going to be well balanced. It's going to use good use of contrast. There's going to be a hierarchy of elements. It's going to be organized, branded. You're going to use some white space, and it's going to meet the expectations, the goal that you set earlier. Well balanced. It doesn't have to be symmetrical, as long as in your eyes the items look well on the page. The contrast is there's varying colors and degrees and tones on that page. The hierarchy of elements. For example, I want to say, depending on if your headline or your image is more important, whatever you want people to see first, you're going to want to make sure that stands out. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be the largest item on the page. It might be this use of white space around it and everything else is crowded. But either way, size, space, contrast, it's important because it guides your target audience's eyes across the page. Now we're going to produce it and deliver it. And this can be the tricky part, especially for designers. We go back and forth all the time. Files properly set up. I'm always pushing them to do different design techniques and things, and they're always pushing back and saying, hey, we could print it this way. So it's a give and take situation when you're working with your printers. And it also goes for web and trade show specifications, print advertising, newspapers. Use of experienced printer or programmer. Some people have, or we have, fortunately, all that in-house here. However, if you're a graphic designer and you're sending things out to a printing company, you want to make sure, and that was, actually, let me preface by saying, I didn't have that at my previous jobs. I would have to outsource to printers. And I found the best printers were the ones, and it got me even to where I am today, is they educated me on printing processes and different techniques and things, and they helped me to make sure that my files are set up properly. Same way with your web programmer. No matter if you have it in-house or you're doing the design, you're outsourcing it, you want to make sure that they're educating you and letting you know what they need to make their job successful, and they're setting up their websites properly, or your website properly. Test, tuned, and proved. At this point in time, you want to make sure it's been tested, tuned, and proved, that it's meeting all expectations, because it's about ready to get baked. Make sure it tastes good at the end. And it meets those specification requirements. That information that you gathered earlier about when you gathered about the specifications of what you were setting up the file, this is where you make sure that they meet that when you're sending it to either the programmer or the printer or the trade show display people. And it meets the client's expectations or your internal expectations if you're creating it.